Griggs vs. Duke Power Company, presented by Frank Tadaro. Class, Personal Selection, Psychology 680, CUNY School of Professional Studies. Hello everyone. We'll begin with a brief and concise overview of this case, its history, and its impact on personal selection. The law, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, was intended to protect a group of people, otherwise known as a protected class, from discrimination. The place was North Carolina, and the history is segregation. Duke Power, before the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was established, was long accused of discriminating against African American employees by requiring a high school diploma and standardized testing in order for employees to transfer within the company, be promoted, and subsequently earn more money. However, the reason why it is important to note the time and the place is because North Carolina, specifically the South, was segregated, was heavily segregated, as was most of the United States. And due to Jim Crow laws, most African Americans received poor education, and many did not complete high school, as opposed to their white counterparts. Willie Griggs and a number of his fellow employees sued Duke Power for discrimination. Did Duke Power Company violate the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Well, originally, according to the District Court and then the Fourth Circuit Appeals Court, ruled in favor of Duke Power Company. They ruled that Duke Power Company did not violate the Civil Rights Act and were in their full rights to require a high school diploma and or standardized testing for their personnel selection. The case was sent to the Supreme Court, and as you see in the photo, the petition for writ of certiorari, I hope I said that right, a formal request for the Supreme Court to hear the case. Certiorari, we saw that word in the early chapters in the text. So here we will examine the law as it applies to the case and the argument. As you can see, attorneys on behalf of the workers argued that the education requirements acted as a way for the company to racially discriminate. On the other hand, attorneys on behalf of the company argued that the tests were not meant to discriminate on the basis of race. Instead, the company intended to use the tests to increase the overall quality of the workplace. Now, whether it was intentional or not on the part of the company has no bearing. The law was meant to protect a protected class. And as you can see, neither the standard was shown to be significantly related to the successful job performance. Both requirements operated to disqualify Negroes at a substantially higher rate than white applicants, and the jobs in question formerly had been filled only by white employees as part of a long-standing practice of giving preferential treatment to whites. Here we could see the definition of the protected class included in the statute, a group of people intended by a legislator to benefit from the protection of a statute. And what came out of this case that was important in history is the disparate impact, which prohibits discrimination against a particular group of people in the workplace. And you can see the exact code that was violated was Section 703 of the Civil Rights Act, letter H. Notwithstanding any other provision of this title, it shall not be an unlawful employment practice for an employer to give and act upon the results of any professionally developed ability test, that such a test, its administration, or action upon the results is not designed, intended, or used to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And there's a statute. Moreover, the plaintiffs in this case argued that the high school diplomas and the standardized tests were unnecessary and did not relate to job-related duties. Their argument was, without high school diplomas and standardized testing, they would be able to transfer to other departments or sections of the company and perform at a high level, and thus be compensated and promoted. As you can see, the court ruling, Justice Warren Berger, the court found that the test and degree requirement created arbitrary and needless barriers that indirectly impacted black workers. Of course, as we mentioned previously, because of the time and the place in North Carolina during the Civil Rights Movement, and before that, dating back to the days of slavery, blacks had a significant disadvantage compared to whites receiving poor education, and many African Americans and whites in the South did not complete their high school diploma. And Justice Berger's quote was, "History is filled with examples of men and women who rendered highly effective performance without the conventional badges of accomplishment in terms of certificate, diplomas, or degrees." Next, the Supreme Court ruled, as we said, that Duke Power's diploma and test requirements were illegal because they had discriminatory consequences. That is the key word: discriminatory consequences. Whether found or unfound, intentional or unintentional, they had discriminatory consequences, and thus found a legal standard now known as disparate impact. As we see, the Civil Rights Act was meant to combat employer policies that have a discriminatory impact. This was a very big case in employment, equal opportunity employment and personnel selection. You could read more about it online if you'd like. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this case.